another question. This is a question we had, I think, more questions about, apart from Ukraine, than anything else this evening. And it's from... This one is from Pam Dumbleton, please. Pam Dumbleton.
Isn't it time the government listened to the people about the effect immigration is having in changing our communities?
Just in what way do you think the government isn't listening?
The government haven't got a clue. David Cameron has never been to Barking. If he came, they'd be warned in advance and everything would be brushed up. The government need to come and walk through our town and just see how we now live. Go back 12 years, it was totally different. Now, we are the complete minority there, and it's just like the most terrible place on earth to live at the moment.
Amanda Patel.
I did a little bit of research about Barking before I came here, and evidently you've had a 30% drop in the indigenous population and a 200% increase in immigration.
Yeah.
And look, I think I'm probably the only one on the panel that is an immigrant. I came from Australia 28 years ago with a backpack. I love this country. I'm really glad to be able to live here. But I never came here expecting that I would be able to get a house, use, you know, send child benefit back home, use the welfare system. I always thought that it was a privilege to be here. And I do not understand when we have the kind of social tensions we have here with schools which are just overflowing now. You've got more children of school age in this area, proportion of population than anywhere else in the country. Yeah. And that's because you have lots of people coming in, many of whom want to work really hard and want to contribute, but the government is not taking account of the pressure it puts. And I just think, you know...
How does it do that? How should it do that?
Well, you know, David, I think it's a huge problem. What David Cameron has suggested recently...
Say that? Sorry, hold on.
Listen to the indigenous people here, the people that have been here all their lives, all their families have been here.
David Cameron did suggest that that we had a ban, so if someone was coming in, they had to work for 3 months and pay tax before they were able to use the benefits. I would say 10 years. I would say make it a bigger barrier, make people contribute.
All right.
That's what I would say.
Make your point, sir, again. What was it?
1 in 7 new businesses are set up by immigrants, yeah?
To employ immigrants. Yeah.
They've all been given money. Everything's been thrown at the immigrants. But listen...
No, I don't...
David Aaronovitch.
Can I finish then? Listen, I've applied for 100 jobs in the railway. 100 jobs. I don't even get an interview no more. In the old days, at least you get a letter, at least you get a rejection letter. I don't even get that. 100 jobs. But these immigrants, they get all their tickets paid for, they get all their jobs. I'm homeless. I've got nowhere to live. I have to go down today and see an immigrant telling me that well, that's the truth. Well, that's the truth. I went down to John Smith's house today, and an immigrant tells me that I cannot live here. I cannot get nowhere to live.
All right. David Aaronovitch. Hang on. All right, let's hear... OK, we get your point. Let's...
You are... And we get nothing.
So you're blaming...
I'm not blaming immigrants at all.
No, you're blaming the wrong people.
I'm not...
You're blaming...
I'm just stating the facts.
Can I just say something? No. You're stating a perception of the facts of the case. And I can
for me personally, and for many people like me.
Yeah, OK, you made your point. Let him answer.
I know, but just because you perceive something doesn't make it true.
It's true for me.
No.
Listen.
There isn't anything that
we've been told.
No, hold on. No, please.
We're not all racist.
Hang on, sir. Hang on. Be fair.
But what about indigenous people there as well?
I think we've heard your point. The idea is the panel should be able to answer.
No one has so far accused anybody of being racist. But the things that you've said were exactly what was said about my grandparents when they came over to the Jewish East End in the early 1900s. Exactly the same things. They said precisely the same things. We can't walk through our streets because they're not ours anymore. Why is a street not yours? Because some of the faces in it are black. Why can't you be in a street that has white and black?
All right, you can answer this.
English on the streets.
No, hold on. Actually,
he didn't actually say... David,
most immigrants, of course...
He didn't say anything
he didn't
about
say
black.
black.
Actually,
he didn't mention black people. He just said immigrants.
Do you really think that?
Is it?
Well, I've got nowhere to live. I need to go and find somewhere to live.
All right.
Yeah, I will. Tonight.
OK. You sir at the very back there. Thank you very much. You sir at the back.
Can I say, I work around the corner in a school that is a fantastically assimilated and cohesive community. I do not recognise the barking that we're hearing from the front row. I'm a bit worried. I'm a bit, not disgusted, but a bit concerned that the BBC tonight selected that question from the lady at the front there just to build up this sort of debate. But
hang on. You may not have heard me say there were more questions on immigration in well, wait a minute. Be fair. More questions on immigration in Barking than on any other subject apart from Ukraine.
I appreciate that.
So don't start attacking the programme for having selected this question. It was the audience's question.
What I'd really love the panel to comment on, though, is the supposed suppression today by the Tories of a report that said there was no link between immigration and unemployment. And I'd like
Michael Hezekiah, you don't answer that.
The Conservative-led government has just published the report. So I don't know what you're using the word suppression about. And what the report says is that actually there isn't anything like the linkage between immigration and unemployment as people perceived. That's what the report says, although there was an earlier report which indicated there was. And why I disagree with you is because I think it's the job of the BBC to allow questions of this sort to be asked.
Absolutely.
Because undoubtedly this whole issue of immigration and the rate at which we can attract foreign people from overseas is absolutely fundamental to the political debate in this country. And if you actually look at the UK Isolationist Party, they call themselves UKIP, the whole appeal of UKIP is actually about immigration. And the resentments that we heard here, that's the UKIP question. And I think that the most impressive thing that's happened here tonight in Barking is the overwhelming reaction of the audience in resentment at this parody of what Barking is all about.
You sat there. Yes, in the blue shirt.
I think you're deluding yourself if you think there aren't these tensions.
Yes, there are.
But who's, especially in this area, but I think maybe you're blaming the wrong people. If you're blaming each other sitting in this audience, if you're going to let people come here without any infrastructure and any planning to settle them in, then there's going to be tensions. And it's not just going to be white versus black or black versus Chinese. It's going to be everybody.
Rachel Reeves, you're applauding him. You agree?
I do agree with him. And look, David said that just because the gentleman at the front perceived something doesn't make it real. And he shouted back, but it's real for me. And he walked out of this room, and people clapped, and he shouldn't have clapped when he walked out of this room, because for him, he is homeless, and he might be wrong in blaming some people in this room for that, but that's how he feels. And that is a situation that he's facing today. And we can't just say, you're wrong, and let him walk out, because he has to hear what other people have to say, and you have to hear what he has to say as well. But I do agree with this gentleman, because if we are going to let people come into this country, we've got to make sure that there is a level playing field. We've got to make sure that there are school places. We've got to make sure there are the homes for people to live in. And we've got to make sure as well that there are jobs for people. And we need to make sure as well that the labour market isn't rigged against people. So, you know, the situation where jobs are advertised overseas but they're not advertised in this country, for example.
And you believe that's happening?
It does happen. It does happen.
So you believe that immigration as a whole is being wrongly handled?
I do think that there are very real problems that we need to deal with. For example, jobs should be advertised in this country. The minimum wage should be properly enforced. Health and safety should be enforced. Private landlords who let out their houses to, you know, 10 people in a 2-, 3-bedroom homes, that should not be allowed. And we've got to understand the legitimate concerns of people who have lived here and their families have lived there all their lives. We also have to understand that people come to this country because they want to work hard, like David's family did, like you and your families of other people in this room did, and we've got to make it work for everybody, for all of us, because we have to live in this community together. We can't roll back the clock. We have to make it work, and we can only do that by working together.
This is the most arrogant hypocrisy I've ever listened to. This is a supporter of the Labour government that had over 200,000 people coming into this country as immigrants.
And there are 200,000 coming today,
and you actually did absolutely nothing about it. And you're now pretending you've got all these policies. What would you do? What would you actually do in government?
First of all, Michael...
No, what would you do?
Well, do you want to listen to me?
No, I do. I want you to answer the question. What would you do?
First of all, Michael, there are 200,000 people coming to this country today. That's what the numbers
Under the rules
showing.
that you created.
No, under the rules. You've been in government for 4 years.
Yeah,
Your government has been in power for 4 years.
What did you do?
Well, first of all, I've been in a parliament since 2010.
So it's your party's fault.
What I'm saying is we need rules to enforce these things. We need to ensure that the infrastructure is there, and we need to ensure that the jobs aren't just being advertised overseas. You know, no one's been named or shamed for not paying the national minimum wage. We need to ensure that those rules, that gangmasters can't exploit those rules. There are practical things we could do, but blaming each other, people blaming each other for the problems of security, that's not the right way forward.
All right, you say in the front here, and then I come to you, Alexander.
I think one of the problems is, in the past, when immigrants came in, it was in small numbers, and they gradually assimilated into the new community, and the new community accepted them. Here in Barking, it's been like an absolute invasion. You know, we were talking about what's happening in the Crimea earlier, you know, the threat of invasion there. Here in Barking, we seem to be living through it. I love the new foreign people, I get on with them, but I just don't know this borough. I feel a stranger in my own country.
Alexander. Alexander Nekrasov.
You know, from a point of view of a Russian who is living here, I tell you why you have that debate and why you're so heated about it, is because it's been suppressed for so long. And the only reason why you have it now is because the elections are coming. UKIP is sort of, you know, making a fuss about this, and suddenly all the parties started to talk. But there was no reasonable debate on that issue about 4 years ago.
We had Enoch Powell in the 1960s saying all the same sort of things. It's not a new debate.
No, that's not. We had this debate. We had this debate back in 2010 with Gordon Brown and Gillian Down. We've been having nothing but the immigration debate for the last, it seems to me, last 10 years. And let me just
do the thing Rachel way. Are you saying it should be closed down?
No, I'm very much in favour of the debate, but I'm also in favour of saying that I'm actually pleased that Labour let all those immigrants come to Britain. People who are an immense... They say a terrifically good thing about this place as a country, and they contribute an enormous amount to this country. And if there are problems... All right. And if there are problems of transition and services and so on, yes, we should solve those problems. But those kids we're talking about in those overflowing schools will be paying your kids' pensions.
All right. Simon Hughes. Simon Hughes, I'll come back. You asked a question. I'll come back to you after we've heard from Simon Hughes, and then I'll come to you.
Listen,
and then pretty much
I represent the Old Kent Road, the Elephant and Castle. Very proud to do so. What you raise is a real issue. Yeah, I accept that for people born here, particularly for people whose families come from London for generations, they have seen a very large increase in people, quotes, not like them. I accept that completely. Yeah. I do think, like Michael, that the last government had two significant failures for which they need to be held to account. One, they made an error in allowing the transition period which we could have had when Poland and countries joined the EU not to be applied. We were the only country in the EU that allowed that. So, of course, they came here.
So
and they were very lucky. Well, hang
on, David.
That was a mistake.
Do you regret all those polls?
Of course I don't. But it was a mistake because the volume of people who came over that period, in my judgment, I said it at the time, I thought would cause a tension, which it did. Yeah. The other thing is that under Labour, the policing of our borders was hopeless. Hopeless. The UK BA, we had no system for checking anybody out. and we had a pretty lousy system for controlling our border. Now,
and what do you say to the lady here who asked the original question?
No,
before we come to the end of the programme.
I was responding to her question.
Yes.
So there is a concern.
Haven't the EU made all of this worse?
No, listen.
They've made us keep our borders open. Yes, they have.
Let me ask you a question.
No, we need to police our own borders. We need to make our own decisions. We don't need the EU to run our country.
You could take that view. I disagree. I'll tell you why.
I know you do.
I'll tell you why. No, listen, I'll tell you why. We in the UK have retained our right to have passport and border control, unlike other countries, and I support that, yeah? But this government, both parties in the government, are very clear that they are addressing this issue. We can't change the rules on the European Union because it's a free trade, free movement idea. And there are 2.5 million people who are British in other parts of the European Union because they chose to go there.
Simon, I'm going to have to... All right. I'm going to have to stop you. I'm going to have to stop you if I can. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our hour. I'm sorry to those of you who... Well, what...